It's been a long time since I did a studio vlog. I just want to focus and do a bigger artwork and go back to basics, to like simple media. Please join me. We'll see if this consolidates.
I started with just testing some old inks that I already had and testing if they are like waterproof or smear at all with water because I want to just pick very dark, simplified colors and make it more line work. Also was not doing so great with ideas recently, so I was just took one markers and like did whatever lines and shapes and see if I can come up with something. So I wasn't really focus on what I want to draw rather than just like trying to loosen my imagination. I've not been having a great time recently, probably for the past year, because I've been really busy or going places and then getting sick right after. So, being feverish, dropping out the day or even a week, recovering. So really try to draw things. And last time I drew things when I realized I was feverish. And even though I did make the footage of it, I scrapped it in the end. And so I restarted now again. That's why it's not been a lot of studio vlogs recently. So I really enjoyed drawing with ink, and I'm definitely wanting to keep it as a way to draw because the lines were very free. Most of the line work wasn't like in a single brush. So, not overworking it, being very loose and fluid. And same with the other sort of ink which was feeling like watercolor. I really enjoyed it. The funny thing, I started getting some other colors of this thing. So this was specifically chestnut brown ink. And the further I was starting to paint with it and mixing with some water, possibly, it started showing yellow in it. And I don't know if it's because segregated from old age or anything, but it just did it by itself. So I just left it with that sort of effect. And I really enjoyed the process itself. And I think that's the beauty of making any artwork is really being in the process. Um, Even if it wasn't really thought out as an art piece, it was very different from what I previously been doing. So I think it's definitely an approach I wanna try more. Doing more ink, black and white, going monochromatic, going back to simpler times and simpler things. Still leaving that sort of cartoonish um, effect to it, I guess. I still started feeling more with, as you can say, with lines and little details of art. Originally, this was about sort of personification of nature, I would say. So it was supposed to be like a part of a mountain almost. I know it didn't quite turn that way, but again, I was not very much hung onto idea rather than just having fun. I actually wanted to play more with negative space, which might not necessarily played well for it. This is where it started getting wrong. Adding the acrylic into the mix and adding more color into the mix, I think it actually not necessarily was a wise decision and broke that simplicity.
Okay, I did the painting, if we can call it as well, like ink work more or less. This was basically semi my plan. I was thinking a lot about these hands. I was either thinking holding a tree, blocking something. I'm like, I'm gonna come up with it once I finish it, but then I didn't, and I just left it like that, which is great because it's a bit of negative space, right? And this would have been a finished space, but I don't love it. I have a very interesting relationship with art these days. Either I'm doing reference or doing my own art, whatever. But I love doing it. I love the process. While I'm doing it, I'm very happy. But literally at the last moment, so right when I finish, I'm like, I don't love it. And it just felt like I haven't made a good art for a really, really long time. That I'm like, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of it. This supposedly was finished per plan. I'm not happy with it. So even though I was like, I'm gonna practice negative space and try not to do entire thing, but I'm gonna do it because at this point I'm not happy with it anyway. Can I make it worse? Really, can I really make it worse? Is the question. Like, because if I'm not happy with it, it's not gonna be worse. I'm either gonna still be not happy with it, you know. So in this case, I'm gonna do the top of it. I have no idea. I think a splash of color right now of a different type. Even though I really like the technique, I was like, I need to do more ink. This is mostly ink, right? And then just a splash of acrylic. And I was like, I really need to do more ink. It was so much fun. It was just so loose. And I definitely love the technique and way of doing it. But I really want to paint something happier. I want to paint something green. It's summer. So I already got myself empty sheet of paper of the same size. So that's another thing. I recently bought these because I was like, it's been a while since I did something bigger than A4, I guess, because my sketchbook is about A4. So I was like, I need a big sheet. I need to, some bigger boundaries. Um, I'm looking at the painting on my wall and I'm like, I probably need a big poster sheet, but to actually be happy because this still feels very small. Like this is not even trouble to fill it for me. I did a sketch which I'm not happy with, so I don't know if I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. But I did a sketch of a little cow in a field. I mean, this was just the color and composition understanding. And I do like doing sketches on my iPad these days much more for the sort of line work and composition. So here we are. So that's what was my idea, probably to try like little baby cow. Sounds fun, but I have no idea if I'm gonna change my mind. But it has to be something greener. In either case, let's start with this one first.
Apart from painting these paintings, we also had a watermelon weekend. I always say that summer, in terms of summery things, I feel like you have to have at least one day of watermelon, honestly. So we got the watermelon, and that's always feels refreshing and summery, even though it wasn't the hottest days yet, but it's still lovely. I really, brings me happiness. I might do a little bit about more about the star, but actually might not have been terrible decision. Also, I left the space, so I think I'm just gonna show the palette on the side, which I never do. So whichever, whichever works, we'll see. For some reason, a cow in a field is something very summery. And I was really thinking that I needed something more greenish after the dull painting that I just done. And, you know, I don't know why, but I do have memories with the cows. I actually have a grandma who had, a grandparents who have a farm. So, it's not necessarily an unfamiliar creature. So yeah, I thought that was very nostalgic and something sort of oddly reminiscent to draw. Also, I don't draw animals frequently enough. Despite the proportions didn't quite look like it, but if you look up specifically baby cows, those can be very cute, and some of them even like curly. So I was thinking about drawing cows sometime before, but never really consolidated. So here we are. I think the real fun with this one started when I was started to like put more details and more different colors. So not just leaving that plain sort of sketch that I've done originally. That was just a sort of guide, but it's really more about the details. Devil is in the details. My favorite part was the tealish green for some reason. I think that's where it started sort of gaining shape, and I started adding the tealish green into the mix, and I was just splashing on top of it. I was splashing more and more color, more different greens. That's where it sort of started coming to life a little bit more. Yeah, adding clouds again. Never know when to leave a negative space because what is it even? So while my cow is drying, I had this sheet, like that was like a postcard, and I had this like sheet painted, and I wanted to make out of something out of it, and I just put it away. So I'm gonna try to make something out of this as well, some sort of painting, very simple. So trying to finish this little thing. I haven't quite. I think this makes more sense. Does it? Yes. Let's try to make something out of this. This was just a filler painting. Why I sometimes do extra projects when my other work is drying. I do something else. I always jump from one thing to another. So there's always a filler something. So this is a filler painting which I started when I was ill and I was drawing a lot of wintry sceneries. And then I was like, I feel cold. And then I found out I had a fever. So this was one of them when I was like sort of thinking about this floating piece of ice or snow in the middle, maybe with a tree. um, but yeah, it didn't turn well. And I love adding the crayons. I always like adding some line work and making it look sketchy. I don't know, I feel like it's more my style. I'm not trying to do realistic painting. I'm much more doing sketch type of work, really. Don't know what it is about it, but something a bit more cartoony, a bit more textury really makes me happier. So I added crayon and pastel. So I did the crayon colors, but not the pastel colors. And this is so fragile right now, but that like a breath could probably push away some of that colors. But look how beautiful the pastel parts are. Like it just goes on top of everything. And to be honest, I am pretty happy, but like none of this can really be touched. Let's try to remove the tape. Tape is removed. I actually quite enjoy it. I don't hate it. It's very colorful, it's very happy, and it's very summer. Right, I did the cow painting and I don't hate it now yet. I definitely turned out what I wanted, like green and summery, and I added so many different things. But this thing, I think I'm just like out of a energy, out of a flair to do any more art. So this is kind of what I'm standing with right now. But it was just a little thing in between. And it just been from the beginning, the thing in between, the thing that I'm just like doing very quickly and putting away. Anyway, I really want to do more art. I'm really in my painting time. I'm trying to convince myself that I'm in my painting time right now and doing more sketchbook, using all these paints that I have and creating something. But like I say, while I'm creating, I'm loving it, but the results been like in and out. Thank you very much for being here and see you next time.